Connecting the dots, connecting his guests to the world, creating more connections. Welcome to The Connection. Meet your host, author, coach, Air Force veteran, Jay Morales.
Okay, The Connection. Before I introduce my guest, I know him, but I don't know him. After this, I'm going to know him. You're going to know him. Wilson Munsterman. So Wilson, let's just start right off the bat. When did we meet? When was your first remembrance of us meeting?
I believe it was the Edge magazine's 11th year party at the Catalyst, right? That's
Yes.
when we first met and got introduced through Shannon Bingham and
Yes.
just started talking a little bit. I think I still have that photo of us talking on my Instagram. It's a great photo.
Yes,
And
bro.
stayed connected, stayed in touch since then.
You know, what's important is, you meet a lot of people all the time and you say, okay. And when I meet people, I was asking you a lot of questions. You remember that? Like, I love to ask questions. But I think sometimes when people meet, they want to talk, and they don't take the time to sit and listen. And Wilson, I love your story, man. Like, I love, everything you stand for. So let's talk about childhood to what brought you to Omaha, right? So where were you born? And then however you want to paint it, how did you get here?
Yeah, I mean, my story begins in 2006, January 17th. I was born in China.
Yeah.
I was left on the doorstep of a hospital, no forms of identification. Ads ran in the papers of them saying, hey, we have a young male here, no health disparities, anything at the time right now. So, it was essentially hey, if this is yours, come get it. No one stepped forward. After the initial checks at the hospital, I spent some time in the Chinese orphanage system. The exact number of where or when or how long is unclear right now. We can safely assume that it was multiple. The orphanage systems during this time were unfavorable. There were a lot of malpractices. But then it was around 10 months, I was, placed for adoption miraculously and was adopted by my parents here in America, in Omaha. And just kind of some of the things you really think about that story with the one child policy going on in China, the culture, you want a healthy male, and I have nothing wrong with me, like medically. The fact that I was able to come, thousands halfway across the world and, in a lot of international adoptions, the parents kind of go and meet the child. They know they're going to go international. Well, for my parents, it was Thursday night. They got a call. Hey, we have a baby boy here. Would you like to meet him? Within that Sunday, I was home.
I mean, that's incredible. I want to stay right there. I want to address two things. So I want you to say the culture of China, right? Like, we hear about this. I've heard about it as a kid. People debate about this stuff, and you hear about the politics, the politicizing. Talk to me about the one child policy and what you know of it, because you alluded to it, right? You're like, there was nothing wrong with me. I was the one male in my household. So I'll ask a follow-up question when you bring us up to speed. What do you know of it?
I mean, I do know, I can't tell you the exact dates, but I do know it was a thing where they had an overpopulation with the previous ruler of China, and that to limit family sizes and child sizes, that they limited each family to have one child. And that directly ties into the culture of wanting a healthy male, because in China, it's you want the healthy male to carry on the family name, to take care of the elderly. And the fact that, I am a healthy male, but I find myself in America, those odds and the statistics of why I'm not in China right now are just beyond me of how I'm here and, the opportunities I have.
I mean, let's talk about when you just said, hey, the statistics or the chances of me even being here. So think about this, right? And this is two parents. Your mom had two parents. Your mom's dad had two parents. You know what I'm thinking? Think of the equation of years beyond, and then think of the equation of being born and then being given up for adoption, right? And then being adopted. See, most people are, the normal, not the normal, but just society and culture, like, okay, baby born, take care of baby born. But the odds of you being here right now,
next to none.
Next to nothing.
Yes. It's something where I've realized that I'm grateful to wake up. I've come to terms and I've realized that I shouldn't be alive, probably. I shouldn't be here in America. You know, the odds of no one could, I could have died on that doorstep. Nobody could have found me. The weather could have taken me out. Someone could have taken me just on their own. Another
Stray
family could have
animal.
suffered. I mean,
Right.
yeah, it's the orphanage system could have, with their things, they could have, quote unquote, let's say, misplaced me. I shouldn't be here right now. I should not be able to wake up. I should not be breathing. And so
Right.
coming to terms with that, it's just incredible and eye-opening that, I'm going to attack now every day as a gift. I'm going to go out and do what I can to help others. And it's just
Ooh.
this sense of gratitude I have. I'm just so thankful to be here in America. I'm thankful for the opportunity, and I'm thankful just for what I've been blessed by God and, the gifts I've
Oh,
received.
man. That's so good, Wilson. Like, bro, I already got goosebumps, and we're only like a few minutes in, bro. We got to save it. We got to save it. Plenty of time. But your story, the way you tell it, we're remote. You're in one, your own residence, and I'm here in the studio, and I can feel your energy, man. I feel when you said I'm going to attack every day, and now be honest, you sure do have bad days. I'm
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I do. Um, and it's just kind of knowing the fact that bad days won't stop coming. Life is hard. Life's going to throw
Yeah,
stuff at me. And it's
yeah,
okay. So I can I'm a big results, not excuses guy. So it's
yeah,
okay. When hard things happen, what am I going to do? So now when I know I have the bad days, when I'm struggling, I know, okay, I'm going to go talk to friends, going to go on a walk, going to do
yeah.
A, B, and C. So we can minimize the time I'm feeling down and spend so much more time helping others. And
So
yeah,
good, dude. That's so good. I'm like, this is your show, not mine.
not
Um,
you, man.
but Wilson, um, there are friends that I know who've been adopted, and I'm going to ask you about your feelings about adoption, right? Because I have friends who are grown; they're 50 years old, and they never knew who their father or mother was, and sometimes they wonder or they have bad feelings. Some love, some are like, I'm grateful. Like, how do you feel? How old are you today, Wilson?
I'm 19 years old.
Okay, 19, right? Nobody would have known by now that you were 19, by the way. I thought, oh, well, shoot, we're probably 21 plus with the offline conversation we had earlier. But Wilson, how do you feel? Like, what's your state of mind and what's your philosophy on being adopted?
My state of mind is that adoption is something where it can have multi perspectives and views, right? Adoption is not necessarily so much an experience, but it's a legal thing that happens. It's when the
Mm.
birthright responsibilities of a child are given up and then placed under another family. Adoption can be viewed as good, bad, and everything in between, but it all depends on the experience that adoptee has. I know friends who are adopted and they hate it. They're people that adopted them. It was not a good experience. They didn't feel
Wow.
loved. Perfectly valid. But then I also have friends who love adoption and are so grateful for the opportunity they have, and it's opened up doors for them. And so it's not about adoption isn't about being right and thinking the right way. It's about how do we come and have grace and understanding for everybody, not just the adoptee, but the parents, because parenting is hard.
Oh,
You know,
brother,
I mean,
trust.
have another layer of adoption of trauma and to try and want to take that on because adoption right now, it's about a year schooling for college. That's what those costs are. Anywhere from $15,000 to $60,000. That's what an adoption. So no one just wakes up one day and goes, you know what, I'm gonna adopt a kid. Let me just sign the form. No, it takes years of processing to do it.
Yes.
So it's how do we have grace for those parents and give them resources to be able to parent their child the best of their ability? How do we give resources for kids to be able to talk to others and have a sense of community? And most importantly, how do we give love and understanding to the birth family and the birth mother? Because it's not like Greek times. I was not sculpted out of clay. My birth my birth mother gave birth to me, and it's how do we have grace and understanding for that family? Because people are easy to cast stones before they're in their shoes, and I just think that some of the stories I've heard of from birth mothers is just it's really eye opening, and it's about how do we approach each situation, each person with love, understanding, and realizing that it's about how they view the experience. It doesn't make it right or wrong, but it's how do we view it. And if I could, I would snap my fingers and then make sure that everyone had a great positive experience. So for those who
Right.
have positive experiences, how do we help you, continue to thrive and then also help others? And for those who have poor experiences, how do we help you come out of the fog? How do we help you move forward? Because at the end of the day, adoption isn't going away. So I want to help people make the most of it and, learn to live with it, not buy it.
All right, let's make an impact right now. Okay, so here's what I want you to think about. Here's the impact as we speak. Someone is listening right now, Wilson, and this is your chance. This is somebody who is thinking about adopting, right? Someone is thinking of adopting right now. They're listening to you. They haven't adopted yet. What do you want to say to them?
I want to say first off, the decision to adopt it's one that's grace filled, it's faith based in my mind, and it's just so admirable. I will say though, educate yourselves, right? There's a lot of education.
What do you mean by that? Like, do you mean take your time? Do you mean talk to other couples? Like, how would I educate myself as, because everyone says,
Yeah.
oh, they adopted so and so, they're such good people. Like, how do they prepare themselves or how should they prepare themselves, Wilson?
It's like, going into any situation unknown, you find out what you can. You talk from the heart, you find out information. You talk to other adopted couples, if you talk to adoptees, listen to podcasts, and really ask yourself, are you ready to be a parent? The question isn't, are you ready to adopt? It's, are you ready to be a parent? Because without parenting, there is no adoption. And
Yeah,
so
I mean,
are
yes,
you
you're
ready?
right. Yes. And
So
for whatever reason, people adopt, everyone adopts for different reasons, right? So when you're speaking to someone who's even thinking of it, educate, prepare, you know, it's admirable, yes, but there's a responsibility.
yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? With any parenting. But I think, sometimes where people look at adoption as a, oh, this is our last resort. Like, it's a child's maybe first opportunity,
Mhm.
right? For life. I mean,
Absolutely.
and I'm not chastising parents who can't have children. Not all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when I hear, oh man, I guess we have to adopt. I'm like, I don't know how to react to that, right? I don't know what to think about that. But what is that? When you have you heard that before? Have
Oh
you
yeah.
heard people say,
I
what does
mean,
it make you feel? Like, and again, not chastising, but there's a recipient of that statement or someone hears it. For some people, they're like, nah, I don't care. What do you feel when you hear that?
I used to get, I wasn't really happy when I were to hear those statements, and I really sat back and understood, okay, well, why are they saying it? And it's all about, they're not saying it to be malicious,
Right.
not at
True.
all.
Good point. Good point.
It's just education. It's about not being in the adoption space. You don't know there's not that there's correct terms, but it's, you've never been in the area in the spaces where you might go, hey, that probably doesn't sound the best. I mean, when I was growing up, me and my dad, I remember, we'd be doing something, we'd be at a store, and someone would come up to him and be like, hey, is he adopted? My dad would go, yep, and he'd shake my dad's hand, and it was just like, what? Like, I didn't understand.
Okay. I didn't think about that.
I didn't grasp of what that meant. And then I realized that they're not acting out of malicious intent. It's just one, either curiosity, two, admirable, because probably then he had run in with adoption, and was gracious that other people wanted to make that decision. But at the end of the day, it's more about just not ever having been in that space, you
Mm,
know, and not
yeah.
realizing that maybe that isn't the smartest thing to say, or because again, it's all down to parenting. It's no matter, it's like that. You ever have that toy where it was marbles and they all took different roads and ended at the same bottom, like the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember playing with that. It was great. But that's what adoption is. It's just, and IVF and surrogacy. It's all just
Yeah.
different ways to parent. It
Hmm.
doesn't make your way wrong. It doesn't make another one's
Right.
right. It's all
Right.
just, are you guys ready to be a parent and attack and take on the challenges that come with parenting? So that's really what it is. And so I've never been, yeah, no, I've never been offended by anything, because it's just down to either curiosity or just, negligence, and you can't hold that against somebody, because if they say something and you go, hey, why'd you say that? 9 times out of 10, they're going to come back and realize, oh yeah, probably wasn't smart. And
Yeah. Or they don't know.
yeah, I know it's as much about having a conversation and not, flying off the emotional handle.
I mean, it's true, and you're for 19 years old, you're definitely an old soul for sure. So let me ask you this, and because I do wonder, when you said, "Hey," when we were in the store, someone asked my dad, uh, "Is he adopted?" So obviously, or am I just asking, were your parents different ethnicity,
Yeah,
different ethnicity?
my parents are Caucasian, absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second, right? So I mean, just that alone, right? And this was back in the 2000, early 2000s.
Yep, '06.
So '06, still modernizing times, but it doesn't matter. People always do this still. Oh, because adoption is, in my mind, it comes in many forms.
Hmm.
Um, um, Adoption from mixed marriages, adoption from children who lose their parents, adoption from, foster parenting, or there's just so much when it comes. It's not just someone, they don't just look in a window and go, I want that baby. No,
Oh, it's yeah.
no. I've seen people get their heart broken. I've heard of the stories where people fly to another country. They've been there, they've been on a journey for 13 to 16 months, and it looks like the adoption's gonna go through, and they get there and they're like, sorry. We're talking hours upon hours, thousands and thousands, and that's got to be emotional within itself, and again, this is my perspective, but going back to your question with your dad, how did you feel growing up, or was it even a thing? And I'm not asking out of malintent. I'm asking because I want people to not go, oh, that's cool, he's Chinese and his parents are Caucasian. Like I almost want to stop that,
Oh yeah,
because you're just people.
yes. I'm gonna hop on there. We're just people. We're just humans. To me, my dad isn't. Oh, that's my white dad. That's my dad. I'm not his Chinese son. I'm his son. Um,
That's
you
so
know,
good.
yeah.
That's so
We're just
powerful right
people.
there, bro.
It's yes, you're gonna have people on the outside, talking about culture and did you guys rob him of his culture or something? And
Oh,
no, my parents raising a child is so hard on its own. Okay. Now, raising another child in a culture that you have never been in, imagine that. I know if I adopted a child tomorrow and he was from the Netherlands, I couldn't figure out how to parent a child, in the Netherlands culture, but I would then probably take steps like my parents did to, okay, what is the culture? We go out for, Chinese New Year. We'd always, go out. My mom ran some Chinese, adoptee group, giving me friends with people, in the same circumstance. We would have elementary school Chinese New Year's. They did everything they could to immerse me in Chinese culture. And
what year were you born in, by the way? What year of the what?
dog, I believe.
Yeah, me
Dog.
too.
Dog,
Year
yeah.
of the dog, me too,
Yeah.
bro. Because
What?
there's different animals. Anyway, I'm going to include an excerpt on the bottom. So your parents took the time to check the culture, even take the time to say, okay, my son is Chinese,
Mhm.
and we're going to honor his heritage, right? But it didn't mean that, you know, they had to immerse themselves totally, because yes, they culturized you for here, but they also honored your past.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't have to pick. That's the biggest misconception is people are like, oh, he has to pick. No, you don't. I mean, you look at me. I I have so many different influences. Like, I think, what if you can see, I have a Patsy Cline record back there, right? That I was listening to today. I love John Wayne. I think Elvis Presley's the greatest singer of all time. I want a '57 Chevy Bel Air maroon with chrome on it. Like, I have
Let's
so many different cultural influences. My music spans everything. I mean, the last concert I went to was Andrea Bocelli. Okay, the Italian opera singer, right? At 19 years old, I've seen Andrea Bocelli. And it's just the fact that you don't have to pick. Your skin color does not dictate your culture and it does not dictate what you need to like. You do. You
That's
do. And
delightful.
so I'm going to like what I like, do what I do. And if you don't like it, that's tough because I'm sorry. I'm not going to live for anyone else but myself. And I'm going to do the things that make me happy.
God, that's so good at 19 years old. All right, let's move a little forward. How old were you when you came to America?
10 months.
10 months. Okay. So this is pretty much what you knew from a cognitive, I'm aware of my surroundings. I know some
Mhm.
people think they can. I mean, I think I remember earlier than a year, less than a year. Do you remember
Mhm.
anything or nothing?
I don't remember anything. I
Man,
know my first, you have glimpses, but my first where it was like, oh my God, I'm actually aware. I remember we were driving up center and I just was in the back seat, and all of a sudden that's when everything just like clicked for me. And from there, I've memorized everything and just been
wow.
able to
So
conscious of.
did you know? Did you know, or when did you realize, like, oh, hey, I'm adopted? When did that ever hit you?
Well, it hit me with two times. One, I kind of looked down, then looked at my dad, and mom was like, okay, dad's got some explaining to do, that right there. And then the second time I really realized I was adopted is that me and my dad were in Shopco when, those still existed. And I wanted a toy. Well, he didn't get me the toy, and I was a young kid, so I was upset about the toy. And then I go something like I was like, I want like toy. I was just making a scene, right? All of a sudden, we have some like security guards start walking by, and they're like, "Are you this kid's father?" And I'm like, "Oh God, I am adopted," because the culture, you didn't recognize it. And then, so I definitely realized that, oh my God, I am adopted because we don't look alike, and even
That,
today, sometimes I forget. But that's the best thing. I
yes,
shouldn't memorize. I shouldn't, wake up and go, "Yeah, I'm adopted," and have that constant reminder. The fact that my family has been able to establish that enough to where you're not our adopted child. You're our
yeah,
child,
yeah.
and so that's the greatest thing that I think my family has ever been able to accomplish and do.
That's pretty cool. So if people meet Wilson for the very first time, they probably shouldn't go, oh, that's cool. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if I
No,
introduce you to my son, are you going to go, oh, that's cool? No, he's a kid, just like anybody else. I mean, I mean, there are some people I'm sure that are like, oh, how's that? You know what I mean? Right? Like different
just
culture.
curiosity. Yeah, it's just questions.
Yeah, no, no, I love that. So let's talk about what you've stepped into. Um,
Mhm.
when I first met you, you were talking about being an advocate or at least making an awareness, right, at that time. And where have you taken that journey since I saw you last? Like, what are you doing right now for the world of adoption or the community, I should say?
So let's see. That was December, right? That right, something around there, like
Yeah,
around.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
it's been a
It's only been like six,
month.
7.
Well, let's see. Since then, I came out with my book. I wrote a book. It's
I
called
know
Marked by
that.
Adoption.
Yes.
Um,
I'm gonna link that here at the bottom and make sure. So please, if you are curious, support Wilson and get educated yourself. And tell me about the book.
I mean, actually, here I think I have a copy in my desk somewhere,
Yeah,
but
of course you do.
yeah, I mean, I have a
Hold
couple
it up.
of.
Hold it up for me. Hold it up for
So
me.
this is what it is, and it's got 10 key insights, from an adoptee's perspective. And what I do is I start off the book with an intro, and I position myself. I say I have no formal psychology training. I have no trauma response training. I am not a parent. I don't want to talk about those things. I want to talk about what I've learned and my experiences because, it's easy for me to say, yeah, as a parent, I do A, B, and C. But until I actually hold my child in my hands, it's all going to go out the window. I know for a fact.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for
then,
sure, bro.
and then what I do is each chapter is 10 to 15 pages. It's quick. It's not a big book. It's about a 2-hour read.
Sure,
I
sure.
wanted it to be fast and informational because I feel like after that 2 hours, if you're, not ready to adopt or not already on that, maybe take a couple more weeks and really think about it. But in the book, each chapter is one new thing I think the world should know. I call it a textbook journal hybrid, where it's fact, things that I think that people should know. There's chapters in there about culture and heritage, how you don't have to choose, how adoptees can face identity issues, how parents can struggle, how adoption is parenting, not, how we focus sometimes too little too much, I would say, on the adoptee and not so much as the parent and the birth family. And so every chapter's got a new one of those, and it has a story from my life that I have, been able to say, well, this happened for me. This is what I kind of wish would have happened, and what what I can do. I talk about how some girl in fourth grade asked me if those were my fake parents. I talk about, when people would stare at us and go, are you really his dad? But like, you didn't come from him. You're not his child. When just, stuff like that, really personal stuff and feelings,
Yeah.
when I would get down on myself and how to kind of really overcome that. I talk all about that in the book, and just essentially it's a textbook with information, but also a journal with insight into my life and what I've learned and how I want people to, view adoption, challenge misconceptions, and really just gain a deeper understanding of how adoptees might, maybe, possibly feel. Because I can't speak for all adoptees. I can only speak for myself.
Yeah, but to be vulnerable like that, to open up your experiences, right? What did your parents feel when they saw, or is mom and dad still with us?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so did they read the book, and what was their I mean, of course they read the book, but what was their reaction?
So I'm a big person where I don't talk about the perfect, you don't talk about the perfect game until it happens. So any podcast, anything I have come out, TV, article, whatever, I don't tell them until it's already out.
Yes.
So they knew I was writing a book, but they didn't know when it came out. So it was like live for like the day. I let it sit in for me to really calm down. And then I think we just were eating dinner and I'm just like, oh, by the way, my book's out on Amazon. I just casually just like dropped that ball. I think we were like at Chili's or something. Like, yeah, my book's out, by the way. They just were like, oh my God, freaking out. I'm like, yeah, I ordered some author's copies. And they're like, no, we want to buy the first copy now. I'm like, I
Oh,
have cheaper copies coming. And like, no, we're going to buy the first one now. I'm just like, okay, all right. And then, so yeah, they were ecstatic. It's unreal. My parents never thought that the kid that they would have would be doing everything I'm doing and all that I am. So for them it's more of it's shell shock. They're highly introverted. I'm extroverted. I like
yeah,
talking. I'm great with this. I think, I
yeah,
have confidence in myself. They're
yes,
introverted. So they're all just like, that's all you. You can do that. We'll just stand back and take the photos if we need to and say we're your parents. But no, they're really proud of me, and it's just really cool because I can pay every time I do this. I pay homage to them for their
yes,
sacrifices, their decisions, and what
yes.
they've all done for me. So it's kind of a cool way to kind of, not that I have to repay them, but it's more
No,
of a want to. I want to show them how grateful I am, and I want them to know that I'm just so happy to be a part of their family, and I'm happy to have the name I do. I'm happy to carry on my last name because I know it came from a great group of people and a great group of men.
yes, and so Wilson, where this is a big deal, right? Like you said, this is not just to pay homage to them, but you have to know, like when I look at my son, Mason, he's our youngest, right, out of four. I don't need him to tell me how great we are. I don't need him to get every award and be like, yo, dad, mom, this is for you. You know what I want? I want him to achieve things that he wants to achieve, and that is my gift to me, right? But when you wrote this book, you weren't like, let me thank mom and dad because, but you have to know that first of all, less than a percent of people in this world will write a book. Okay? Less than a percent, right? And then be the parents of a son who wrote the book. To me, I wrote my book, and from one author to another, I applaud you. I wrote my book not for anybody else but my parents because I wanted them to know, like, mine is an extreme case. You're very intelligent. I was barely a 1.7 C minus student. I wasted my money, my family's money, for 4 years in private school in California. Like I wasted it, Wilson. I wasted it. But that book, when my mom took notes and my dad took 3 pages of notes and said, son, I have questions about this. I have questions. It was the best thing to know, like, hey, your son, and in the Filipino culture, we say bobo. I said, hey, I wrote this because I want you guys to know I'm not bobo. Bobo means like dumb or illiterate, or stupid, which I never use those words. But for you to write a book at 19 years old, bro, super accomplishment. You hear people, Wilson, say, I want to write a book. When did you know, and how long did it take you?
I knew in July of 2024.
Okay, so you were already writing your book when I met you.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
already in the works. I was at a going away party for Shannon Bing. I'm going to bring her up again because she
Oh
was
yeah,
also
yeah.
trying,
She's awesome.
some crazy cool pageant. And I was
Yeah.
talking to this mother, and she was talking to me, she had she has previous work in adoption. And I realized that, oh my God, there's a lack of parenting resources for adoptees. And, you already have so much on your plate. You need something quick, easy, efficient to just be able to kind of get inside the mindset of how your adoptee could feel. And so I realized that, I'm going to try and level out the playing field essentially, and
Yeah.
that there's a need, and, it helps adoptees feel heard. It helps birth mothers kind of live without that guilt. And those, I know I'm not saying this stuff just like, as like, oh, here's a sales pitch. It does A, B, and C. No, I'm talking about, these are DMs I've gotten and stories. I've gotten DMs from a 60-year-old man who tracked down his birth family, 40 years ago and read my book and felt heard. I'm talking about birth mothers who had to give up their daughter or their son for adoption, write in my book and go, I no longer have guilt of doing it because I know that there's, with people like you, my child is going to grow up in a loving, safe environment. I've had parents go, my daughter didn't talk about her adoption, told us to get the book and just pointed and said, that's what I feel. And it's, made our family closer. And so the fact that, I've been able to really enact these changes in families and people's lives around the United States and hopefully someday around the world, it's just mind blowing to me. I'm just some kid from Omaha, Nebraska, and who would
Well,
think I'd be able to
you're
do
not
all
some kid. The one man, like you mentioned, 60 years old, you changed his life for the rest of his life, whether he has 10, 20, 30 years or 1 year left to live. You
that?
healed him after a 40-year journey. Think
Mhm.
about that, brother.
Yeah,
Not TV, not Dr. Phil, not some medical psychiatrist, a kid. And I say this tongue in cheek, a 19-year-old mature who took the time to tell the story and connect. Like I'm assuming he's probably in another state, whoever
yeah,
bought it. I mean, think of, you would have never met him, Wilson.
no,
Never.
no.
That's crazy, man. That's
I mean,
crazy. Sorry, man. I'm just really thinking about that.
no worries. I mean, today I got a call, and I'm not going to, of course, name him, but I got a call from somebody, and we met through a mutual connection, and it was just, I watched one of your interviews. It was almost in shock, and it was really admirable. He was telling about his story, and this man was 40s, kids, family, and he just was like, he said something that I never heard of before, so I had to look it up. He goes, I feel like I'm at the, what is it, like the well of the lady's feet, or something that's saying. And I didn't know what that meant. And I looked it up afterwards, and it was like, it kind of means like you're you're talking to someone who knows kind of you more, not necessarily more than you do, but knows and can speak to your language that you really grasp and really can, understand and dive into. And the fact that, that it's happening. I mean, I'll have DMs from birth mothers, from, adoptees from all over the country. And these stories are just so heartwarming and touching. And the fact that I'm able to play even just a sliver of, a part in their lives, it's really heartwarming to me. And it's just incredible because I think with the timing of the world, I could not have done this 20 years ago.
I
I
get it.
think everything strategically is laid out for me. It's I 100%, have it chalked up to, my faith in Jesus
Yeah, good
Christ.
for you, man. Hey, listen, let's open that up here because I will tell you, I'm of God and country.
Yeah,
I believe in God and I love my country, right?
absolutely. That's what it is. Yeah,
And
it's
and some people are afraid, like they hesitate sometimes. But I want to talk about your faith, right? Like you know, sometimes in certain circles, when you bring that up, people they're like, oh yeah, you feel it, right? But and I feel you've said it 4 times since we've been on this podcast about your faith.
yeah.
Talk to me about your faith. Talk to me about your belief in Jesus Christ, or what what's your relationship like?
I mean, of course, with everyone, it's not a straight line, and I've learned that. It really came into perspective when I realized that I shouldn't be here, right? And I'm like, okay, so that kind of leads out luck, right? So just kind of with it essentially, my relationship with Jesus Christ is that he was the fallback. And I will admit that. I never
Okay.
was Jesus first, growing up as a kid. And, I
Yeah.
don't want to like kids aren't thinking about Christ, but I had more pressing matters in my mind. So it was always in the back of my head during high school. Senior year comes, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I have no clue. I don't know what college. I don't know anything. I get a call in November or December. Shannon Bingham calls me while I'm at work and goes, "Hey, I have a resolution at this Nebraska State Capitol that you can testify for. Would you like to come?" And that was in 2023. I said yes. Through that experience, it was LR229. I'll never forget that, and it's about how to examine the lack of adoption and foster care resources. And I don't think sadly it didn't go anywhere, but that experience alone, me being able to do that, having a senator come up to me and say, "Don't wait for the government to create change, go do it yourself." I
Yes.
mean, and then within 2 years of my life, within a year in my life, it just has led to God bless, it led to a very nice scholarship at Creighton University, where I
Yes,
talk
that's where you're going currently, correct?
yeah, I'm at Creighton right now. Going to be a rising sophomore. The fact that it's led to podcasts, TVs, that when you Google my name, it doesn't say Wilson Munsterman athlete, Wilson Munsterman. Not that it's wrong to be Wilson Munsterman. It says Wilson Munsterman, author of Marked by Adoption and Adoption Advocate. And those two titles are the ones I'm most proud of.
Yeah.
And so just having all that kind of be laid out for me and knowing that this is my calling, it's about finding your why. And so early in my life, I found it. I want to help adoption. Plain and simple. That's what it is. And so
Yeah.
I really chalk all the blessings in my life and everything I've had. Really, I chalk it up to God because I don't know what other else force in nature could happen. And so, it was a fallback. I didn't initially think it was him, but then it became so weird where it's like, what else could it be? And then
Yeah,
so
bro.
I really started kind of diving in a little bit to scripture and stuff. And, John 13:7, you do not understand now, but you will later. That's really what I kind of live my life by is, when the hard times come, not only the hard times, but when the good times come too, you don't understand what his plan is, but you will later. So I remember, I didn't know where I was going to be. 6 months later, I'm at Creighton University on
On a great scholarship, right?
I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Boom, now I'm, in in articles and doing all this stuff. I mean, the fact that I was able to, I have this list and I will send this to you, but I have the note in my phone. After I see a cool experience and I want to do it, I write it down. And everything I've written down, I've been able to do. So 8 months ago, maybe about a year ago, I wanted Sandy Spade's TV show. I wanted Van Deeb's podcast. I wanted the article in Edge. After I met you, I put something, it was like blank J, do something. And so it's just as I've written these down, little by little, time has progressed. I've checked them off. And it's just that blessing to have this opportunity to do that. And not even I consider, and I'll say this proudly, in the greatest country in the world,
Yeah.
backed by faith,
Yeah.
backed by, just God Himself. I'll say, it's mind blowing to me, and sometimes I still have trouble wrapping my head around it. But I mean, just what the opportunities I'm just so grateful, and I really hope it's just helping at least one person out there. Because at the end of the day, if I just help one person, this will all have been worth it.
Bro, first of all, I'm blown away. Hold on, I'm writing some stuff down here. Because I don't want to forget this and I didn't want to interrupt your flow. Hold on. I want to tell you, me being on a list of yours, right?
Oh,
Like the people
oh,
you've named, I'm like, that to me is, when people say, oh, that person's successful, when people say, Jay, what's your definition of success? Sometimes, I'm like, I don't know, money. Sometimes it's not money. Sometimes it's time. But to me, bro, to end up on a list, 19 years old, somebody like yourself, to be in a crowd of those people, I would consider that a success of mine. And I mean that, right? I don't mean that to be token. I mean it like we've commented on each other's stuff through social media. We've seen each other, here and there. But when you said, hey, if you ever need a podcast, I mean, this wasn't more than an hour and a half ago, not 2 hours, right? I was like, yes, yes, sir. And while I want to do other things, while I've got other things to do, I was like, let me just shoot him back. I'd love to. What's your open window, right? Sometimes people say, well, what works for you? No, you are determined. You're like, here's my open window.
Mhm.
Like, boom, I replied back right away. And I'm like, okay, let's go. But it's things like that you're saying to write it down, put it out there. And, I've watched you, Wilson. I've seen, you and Shannon do some things together. I've seen your name and I've seen the Sandy Spady show and I've seen you with Van. And I see you in the same group of people. You know, what do you say if someone says, "Hey, Wilson, I'd love to pick your brain. I want to network with you. I want to connect with you." Like, what does that mean to you? Because I know you've been reached out to, brother.
Yeah, it's incredible. We're all products of people who've come before us. I'm products of you, Shannon, my parents, everyone in my life. And so when I have somebody who really wants to just learn, and you can say the right things, but you can buy the right things to say, but you can't buy the passion. And you can always pick up on passion. So when I have
Mm.
some just open wide, like I have a cousin, she's just entering her freshman year of high school, and the way that I can like kind of sense that she looks up to me, it's just inspiring to me because it's like, all right, I've been able to accomplish this. I didn't have a me growing up that age. I didn't have a person that like had the opportunities and had it kind of figured out, that I could pick their brain about. I had to jump everywhere to, hey, new situation, let me pick someone's brain about. But the fact that, when people want to connect with me and they're just wide eyed, just, super inspired by me. And I say that not vainly, but just, that's what
Yes.
I'm on to. It's incredible because I see it as an opportunity to help others the way I've been helped. It's not about life isn't about putting ourselves forward. It's easy to put ourselves forward. It's about how do we use the gifts to help others, And in the little prayer I'll do, I'll say, please allow those who are thriving through life use their gifts and bestow onto others and allow those who are struggling to have the strength to carry through. And it's that whole thing of, the fact that I'm now at 19 years old, kids, some kids my age don't even know what they want to do.
No. Hey,
Yeah,
bro, I'm 55. I still don't know, Wilson.
the fact that I'm able to have people want to just connect with me, and whether it's about adoption or just have conversation, or just if they need a reason to go get a bite to eat, the fact that
Yeah.
people want to connect with me, it's just so inspiring. And it's one of the biggest reasons why I do what I do is because as much help as I've, received and I've been given, I want to do the same thing for others. And so it's just a way for me to essentially keep it going, passing the torch on, passing good blessings. And so, yeah.
As you were maturing and as you start networking, when did you know that you wanted to pour into others? What age specifically do you remember? Like, hey, whether it's like volunteering to give out food, the food pantry, whatever, like I don't care what it was. When did you say this? Not being told to clean stuff up, right? Like that's not what I'm talking about. Like, when the class went on the field trip and we did a good thing. I'm
Yeah.
talking about when you autonomously said, I want to do this. I want to serve. When did you think that?
It was my
Conscious.
freshman year of high school. Um, there was a particular kid in high school who kind of he was a stud in high school, and I mean this kid was an all stellar athlete, smart, respected. A lot of people respected him, and he was a D1. He's a D1 football player right now. I'm going to just mention him. His name is Cade Haberman, right? He was the guy who actually blocked both field goals against Notre Dame. Shout out NIU beating Notre Dame, right? But the way this he carried himself at a young age, right? He was my age now, a year ago, and the way that he was able to kind of quietly, not command respect, but everyone respected him, right? And he was some high level athlete. I come into high school, I was about 5'5", maybe, 230 pounds, pure just blub right there. Nothing special. I had a better chance of, you know, flying than I did going anywhere in the ball, right?
That's okay.
but they had a program through Westside, and it was like the Big Brother program. You find a upperclassman, find a young classman. Not that you have to babysit the kid, but it was like, hey, just let them know, thumbs up, you got this, all that good stuff. Well, we're all the freshmen are in the auditorium, and the kid looks at me and goes, right there, comes to me, and I had the least opportunity, the least probably percentage to go anywhere in football, whether that's NAIA to D1. And I had the biggest D1 kid, one of the most successful athletes through Westside, go, yep, I want to help that kid. I like that kid. Because I know for a fact, when you get that age, he wasn't thinking this kid's going to be great on the football field. He was thinking already, I like this kid. I like the way he is. I like his manner. I like the way he respects people. I like the culture. I like him. And it was that speck right there. And I don't think I've ever told him this, but it was the fact that he picked me not for the political reasons of football, but of the person I am. And it was in that moment where I'm like, okay, I want to do this. Like, I want to be able to go out and help others and, really, I don't know if pick's the right word, but I want to be able to go and pick people.
Yes.
And pick good people and go, I like what you're doing. I like where you are. I did a recent podcast with 1 Million Cups, and this will be a quick short story.
Oh, yeah.
There were 1 Million Cups is an entrepreneur thing,
Yep.
and they have all these people pitch. Well, I don't like pitches. I don't like when I meet an entrepreneur and they're like, well, here's my business. I sell this, I do that. I don't care. I can find all that out online if I'm really interested. I want you to tell me why you started the business. What's your story? What's your, what is it? Because I look for one thing, and that's their message. This girl, she, started her own faith-based hot yoga studio. And my first question to her was, what's your story? And she told me one of the most beautiful stories I've ever heard. And it's just the fact that, I want to help the future generations. I want to be able to pick people and use gifts that I've bestowed onto me, onto them, and just essentially keep the cycle going. And so that's really what it was, is that because it happened to me and it's happened so much, it'd be wrong of me not to want to, continue the cycle.
If you really think about it, how much will that talent pouring into people cost you in
Zero,
money? Zero.
zero, zero
Zero.
dollars.
And it has come from somewhere. So in my book, I talk about transferring energy and sharing energy with other people. And I truly believe that if you're malicious, your energy will last for about that long.
Mhm.
But if it has got good intentions and it's pure, guess what, man? It's going to go from one conductor to the next, to the next. And you know what, Wilson? Somebody 79 years from now, 97 years from now, 190 years from now might say your name. They might say your name. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Somebody you'll never meet. Somebody you'll never, they'll find you, they'll find a message from you, or they'll say, there you had a great grandfather named Wilson, right? And he did this. Or they'll find you in a lesson, or they'll find you documented in history, or maybe an Instagram page that is around, or your book might end up in some dental office that has, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the things you're doing today, bro. Like, listen, there's plenty of people that show up on this earth. They die. They're good people. That's it,
Mhm.
right? Their names died. Their legacy died. Their gifts died because they kept it under a lampshade or in a box, or they didn't feel like imposing on people. Bro, ripples, when you said, oh, maybe we didn't change it with legislation. I don't need the government either, bro, for me to make change. Right?
Mhm.
That's why I started the 50-mile march. I didn't start the 50-mile march for the government to say, hey, look at us. I did it because veterans need their help. Just like you, there's no institution funding your book. There's no body of people saying, we're going to lift up Wilson Munsterman and we're going to do this for him. No, it's Wilson, whether anyone shows up or not.
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
And I think that's a pure philosophy. Here in the last few minutes, we've got about 9 minutes left, and I want to ask you some really insightful questions of I want people to go, "Ah, now I know him. Okay, so when you're not doing all the good stuff, when you're not doing a Creighton, when you're not on stage or where you're not in front of people, where are you going? What are you doing? What do you do for fun?
I go record shopping. I
Yes,
love
vinyl, brother, is everything.
I love it. I mean, I picked up some names that probably might be even past your head. I have some Jim Reeves records I got. These are from like the 40s and 50s. I just got Bing Crosby's White Christmas,
Yes,
Beauty
yeah,
What I Hear. I have, Engelbert Humperdinck's, Tom
yeah.
Jones, Elvis's, Johnny's, Patsy Cline's, the Beatles, just anyone I can, because and I've never really said this out loud, but it's my grandparents unfortunately passed right before I did, but right before I say I was great. They passed junior year of high school. Everything started senior year of high school. So there was a lot of talks, but every kid gets that talk. The grandparents, oh, you're gonna go great, far. But before it actually kicked off for me, they unfortunately passed, and so that's a way for me to kind of connect with them. Is that I can hear the same record that they heard, the same music, the same crackle, the same you know when something gets chipped, the same annoying loud crackle sound that in your ear, that I can hear the same thing that they do. It's just a way for me to connect with them. When I'm not doing records, hanging out with friends. I'm an avid Chipotle lover. I really love the new honey Chipotle chicken. That's delicious.
They should
uh,
sponsor you, bro.
Great. I love it. I love Chipotle. It's bad how much I'm going,
Yes.
but yeah, I'm just hanging out with friends, kind of just doing what I can. And really, I love opportunities, concerts,
Yeah,
movies,
yeah.
being a kid right now. That's essentially a kid is what I'm.
All right, right. Like that's I forgot you're 19, but let's go back to vinyl for a second, brother. I was a DJ. I DJ'd on 1200s, like DJ on Technique 1200s, right? Like I brought out record crates. This was when I was younger. Obviously, my hair's, I was a kid of the 80s. We used to rock these parties, but the crackle of the record. So my mother had the best Donny Osmond, the Beatles, you know, um, Tony Orlando and Don. Like, do you know any of these names that I'm saying? Hopefully, you know Tony Orlando and Don, right? Like, I can go on and on. Curtis Hayes, Shaft, like the Bee Gees. Like, don't get me started, bro. Like, we can battle. We can battle
Saturday
for
Night
sure.
Fever. That's
Yes,
pretty,
dude.
yeah.
Yes, dude. Oh my gosh. Disco Inferno was probably my favorite track from the whole Saturday Night Fever, or More Than a Woman by Yvonne Elliman. Anyway, or Blondie Rapture. Let's keep going. But that's not on that album. Anyway, um, there is something about vinyl that is timeless, just like what you're talking about. And it's probably resonating with your life because I feel like you are a timeless classic dude. Um, Vinyl, when it was recorded, is recorded in waves, right? True out the algorithm or the it's the out what it's in a true wave. Well, CDs and digital music is recorded in bits and it's jagged. So if what is that?
I think that's a plane going over my house.
That's-
I always
no,
look.
hey,
I'm
this
still
is
that
why.
age where it's like, oh, plane. Where's that? Oh, I see that.
That's funny. No,
Underground.
but if you really look at it and if you listen to the difference, to me, when I listen to a CD, I can hear chalk. Like I know it's digital. It's not exactly chalk to my ears, but vinyl, bro, takes you to a whole different place.
Oh, it's magical. I can't explain it. You can just kind of lay your head back, I always have like a position to put my hands crossed on my, stomach.
Yes,
I'm just laying
yes,
back and I just get transported. Yep.
bro. And you know at Coneflower, have you ever been to Coneflower?
I would go there once a week at college with a friend, and so that's why when I saw you do him, I'm like, "Hey, is there like a Coneflower Gold card where you get it once a week? Because I could use that." We added up how much money I spent at Coneflower. It's not a good number. It's I would say anywhere from 600 to 700, probably just alone in
Awesome. Well,
Coneflower.
that's crazy. So he plays vinyl. So when
Mhm.
you step into his space, it brings you back.
Oh yeah,
And
it's great.
even for those who have never been in that era, know what the pure sound of that era is, right?
You
Like
you
that's
know you know it's a vinyl, even if you've never heard it. You're just like, yep, that's vinyl. I mean, it's funny because when I would go and he'd have the vinyl records playing. It's behind on the counter because we always went to the one at Millwork. We would I would look at it and be like, oh yep, I have that record. It was always a fun game of like, well, I have today's record. In my weekly trip to Coneflower, and
Bro,
I
that's
did
funny.
most of the time. It was great. It was so awesome.
Okay, so a couple more questions. We already found out what your favorite vice, which is ice cream, it seems to be. But any other vices that you're like, oh gosh, any vices of yours?
I'm trying to think what else.
Things you collect, like So for me, bro, it like I said, the bourbon. I don't even drink it anymore. But man, like we were talking about this earlier, right? Like my buddy just found that Elmer T. Lee, and I just cigars is another vice of mine. Like, what are some of the things that consume your money with guilty pleasure?
I collect Elvis Presley ornaments. That's like a that's like a thing.
I would have
Yes,
never known, bro.
Elvis
Uh,
Presley is my favorite singer. I have records. I have just, and I will send you pictures later.
oh
And
man,
the craziest, I have like an Elvis doll, gold coins, just Elvis, like anything. I love Elvis. The raw talent. There's nothing that's ever been like that, and nothing that ever will be. And so I have about, I think, 40 to
look at
50.
that. That's
So yeah,
Graceland, bro.
I've been to Graceland 3 or 4 times, I think, right now in my life. And
Here's his
growing up,
living room, man.
yeah, growing up, it wasn't Disney. I want to go back to Graceland. I wanted to see everything because it just was amazing to me. When you can sit in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and they have American Trilogy playing, and it's just museum, Elvis exhibit, little Elvis room. Sorry, that's the house song, and it's American Trilogy playing, and you just get stuck there. The power of the voice, it takes you to a different place. You just sit there for another 20 minutes. Next thing you know, you're watching the entire Aloha from Hawaii concert, and it's just transports you. And so yeah, anything Elvis, anything with the old 50s through 70s. I like old kind of like country western posters, like the old, I want like old magazines. I kind of like
Yeah,
kind of those, but
yeah,
they're hard to come by because everyone's just thinking of threw them away. But
yeah.
I have a menu used in the 70s concerts. I do want a paper though of Elvis died. I want one of those Elvis died papers,
Oh
and
my
I want to
gosh.
frame it because to me it's just the way my parents describe them hearing about it. There's nothing that's been like it. I mean, I
I
guess
mean, you didn't even experience it yourself, and you're that close to it. So your parents really affected how you feel about it.
it's my dad's number thing is without those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Right?
Oh,
He loves that.
true.
And it's just like, so I'm a big history buff. And it's without our history, there is no future. So
Right.
it's how do I stay immersed? Because you ask any other 19-year-old, they're probably they're gonna know all about the future. They're gonna know all about the latest and greatest. They're gonna know all about, who's dating who, which Kardashian's dating somebody. I want to know about the history. I want to know about the world wars. I want to know about, how was this country founded? How was the banking system set up? And so it's just like I've just kind of resided in being an old soul, and I used to kind of not like it, but now I've learned to own it, and I'd
Yeah,
rather.
absolutely. I mean, and I think that's important. And there's a last question I'll have for you. What advice do you have for discontent people today? Discontent people who are like, man, this is the worst time ever. I I I only got half of this, or hey, and I'm not talking politics. I'm talking about you meet people all the time, Wilson. They're like, oh, I can't be that happy. I can't be that happy. What
Yeah,
is your message to those people, bro?
I will say, really count your blessings, right? I've found that people who have no goals to better themselves or achieve something wither away, and that's how you become complacent. Okay. So always try to figure out how to better yourself. I have, something on my phone that I look at every day and it motivates me. I don't know if the camera's gonna pick this
Yeah,
up, but
let's see.
how do I do this? But it's like my
Okay.
goal. It
Yeah,
has my
John.
goals. And it's, build
There's your
financial.
birth, John.
Yeah. build my financial wealth so, you know, future wife hopefully doesn't have to work, grow into the best version of myself, make a lasting impact in the world, and inspire people to believe what's possible. And, you know, with those goals, it's about finding my why. Now I always have a reason to get up and do what I can. And for people who are, you know, discontent, I would say, find a way to improve yourself, because, you know, without
Ooh,
those goals, you
deep.
kind of you become, that's comfortable, but you don't have a reason to get better. And when you don't have a reason to get better, you don't really have a motivation to do anything. And so
Brother.
then do everything that comes with that. Find the support system, do the things you can, you know, lean on others, ask for help. The world's a good place. No matter what you watch on the news, the world is good. People are good. And
Okay.
if you can just, you know, take the chance to ask a question, do it. Because as many times as I've been told no in my life, whether it's being on a podcast or something, the little times I've been gotten yes, it's grown into something incredible. So just don't be afraid and find your goals and then go and achieve them.
All right. The final part here is I'm going to give you advice because I wrote this down from earlier when you said I'm going to allude back to it. And then if you have any advice for me, I'll take it and we're going to close it out. All right. You ready? All right, Wilson. Here's my advice to you. Don't lose your light, bro. You're 19 years old. I feel like I'm talking to my 19-year-old self right now. You will be jaded. You will be derailed. You will fall on your face. You'll be chastised. You'll be ridiculed. You'll be embarrassed. You'll be let down. You will be betrayed. You will be robbed. You will be left out. Okay. But your attitude right now should not and could not. Don't ever let that go away. Your message, your passion, your creativity, your connection, your history, you cannot forget that. You cannot forget that. And I'm telling you right now, I wish I was your mental age at 19. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if I could go back to 19 years old, I'm not saying I want to be like you, Wilson. I'm saying there's a lot to learn from you. And the last part is when I say don't lose your message. And here's why. No one else is going to deliver the message like you do. Nobody. It's not about, oh, how to strike oil or how to become rich or, hey, here's how to do this. And your message is for adoption. Your message is for the people who are adoptees, right? The children who've been adopted, and for the parents and for the system. Bro, there's multi dimensions. Don't ever lose that, because you know what? Not everyone's comfortable talking about it. And there is plenty of work to do in that system. As much as I don't know, I know enough that that system, that world, that community needs a light like yours. And that's my advice for you, brother.
That's awesome. It's absolutely amazing. I guess what's my let's see.
And you don't have to have it, bro. You can give it to me later. I just thought from the little that we know of each other, you might be like, hey, when you look in the camera, open your eyes, Jay. I don't know, like, like.
I guess my advice would be is just keep doing you.
Yeah,
Simple as it is. Keep being
yeah,
who you are, doing the
yeah,
things you do, everything I see, the 50-mile march, and just everything that you are and you stand for. Keep doing that. You know, there's not a lot of positive voices out there. It's easy to be a negative voice and get noticed,
yeah,
and the negative voices kind of can shun out the positive voices. But just keep being a positive voice and keep doing what you do and keep being a great father, keep being a great husband. I mean, I'm not gonna lie with you. I have been piggybacking on your guys' date nights. Whenever you go to a restaurant,
yeah.
I have been going to those and be like, oh, he was right. This place is legit. You know, I like this place now. So
Oh,
just
my wife will love that. My
yeah,
wife will love that, bro.
keep doing you, man, and just keep giving back, because I'm hoping someone listens to this 5 years from now. Hopefully I'll be able to have you on a podcast and we can just, you know, keep it going and helping
Yeah.
others.
I wish nothing but the most, the greatest for you. Just you're doing a lot of great things, man. Say no to a few people. It's okay. Stay focused on you. Time, time. That's all you got, brother. Time. Say no to some things that you're unsure of, and it's okay, right? No one's, because when you say yes to the things you can't take on, it wrecks everything. So with that being said, I'm going to watch you, bro. I mean, I followed you through my feeds. Like, we're always, I'm abreast of everything that you are doing. So good for you. This is the first of many, bro, because we're going to do follow-ups. I hope to see you soon, and we'll go from there, brother.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to The Connection. It's been a fantastic journey exploring stories, insights, and inspirations that bridge our lives. Remember, every connection has the power to transform. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Your feedback keeps us going. In this connected world, let's make meaningful connections that enrich lives. Now, signing off until next time. The Connection. Keep connecting and let's go.